What if the death of Jesus wasn't something for us to avoid, but something for us to step into? If we look at what the typical view of his atonement is, it goes something like this. God is perfectly good and gave us a perfectly good set of laws. But since we all broke them, God has to punish us with his wrath. But Jesus came down and stepped in our place, so God's wrath fell on him instead of us. So then there's no punishment for us, and we're free to go to heaven. This is the typical view that a lot of people have in their minds, especially, American evangelicals. But is this the biblical view? Go back to the beginning. Of course, we have God, the creator, the source of life. And out of chaos and nothing, he creates a world filled with life, a world that is good. He does this freely out of his love. He bestows upon those made in his image free will, namely Adam and Eve, so they have the choice to love him or to turn away from them, put themselves above God. Since we're in the world we're in, I think you can tell which choice they made. Adam decided to take of the tree, which actually turned himself away from God, plunged him into darkness and disorder. Not because God inflicted this punishment of death upon him, but because he turned away from the source of light. Common sense, if you see a light source and you walk away from it, you're going to be in darkness. And that's basically what happens to all of us. Children of the first Adam are united to him in participating in his deeds. So we're all going back to dust. You were made, and to dust you shall return. Genesis 1:3-19. But that's not the end of the story. Because God himself, source of life, remember, enters the likeness of sinful flesh, becomes a child of the first Adam. Instead of turning his will away from God, he freely chose to turn his human will towards God, cooperating with his divine will and bringing it into harmony. God and man, once again, in harmony. But since he was mortal, since he was born in the likeness of the first Adam, he still died. But that's not the end of the story, because he is life. Life and death do not mix. He went back into the dust, but then out of the dust, out of the darkness and disorder of sin that we created, came life, which destroyed this. And so just as how the first creation came out of darkness and disorder, the second creation, the new creation, comes out of darkness and disorder and creates new